Hi, welcome to Paranormal Kativity. Sometimes stories get lost in legend. Their origins just kind of get blended into other things, or they'll get blended with real accounts, and then you don't really know where the story came from. I have an account of doing this a little bit. The legend lived on further than the reality of the fact that it was all made up. Alex and I have a friend who we wanted to scare, and I'm going to go into full detail on exactly what we did and show you the location of where we did it, but long story short, we took our friend to a cemetery and made up a story about it. Made a fake webpage that we printed out to show him with all of these stories and everything. It really freaked him out, and for a long time he really thought it was true. And then when we told him it was fake, it was just hilarious. Like, we still talk about it to this day of how funny it was that he fell so hard for it. It's just amazing to me that something so small can make such a big impact. And I found out about this story of Sally the Dunstable Witch and the Bottled Curse, and it's an English story, and it's super cool, and it's something very similar where, like, you don't really know if the story is true, if it has true meanings, if it's part of people actually having accounts there and instances of it being haunted, or if it's just a story made up. So I wanted to share the story with you guys and kind of give you some of the origin history of it, and then kind of get your perspective on what you think might be true. This story was written a long time ago. The exact date is kind of all over the place when I did my research. A lot of places said it was over 600 years old. I have a feeling that it was around the time of the witch hunts that spanned a lot of years and were horrible. People were very afraid of witches and witchcraft whenever the witch trials went on. Obviously, that's why they killed thousands of people. So just keep that in mind. This is from that time, so a lot of these biases and thought patterns are from people who were very fearful of non-factual things. If you've watched any documentary on the actual witch hunts, it was really sad. I mean, people just had a lot of backwards thinking. So here we go. The story goes that Sally was a young, unassuming girl. She did a little bit of herbal remedying, and she occasionally would tell fortunes. Nothing too horrible, but enough to where she was on the radar. And eventually she got herself a cat, and it happened to be a black cat that supposedly taught her the dark arts and became her familiar, to the point that she was able to actually trade places in the form of that cat to go around town and do things. At first, around town, they started noticing fires happening, and they had no origin and no reason that they were being caused. And next, people just started becoming sick. She kind of became a very prime suspect in this just because of the other things going on. So there was a witch trial. She was found guilty and she was burned at the stake. And when she was burned at the stake, they burned her cat and her broomstick too. The story goes that she cursed the people who burned her at the stake. Specifically the person who accused her in the first place. She said that the ground where she stood would always be hot, and that she would make sure that she got her revenge, basically. Now, the Priory Church of St. Peter is in Bedfordshire, England, and it's a very small town. At the spot where she was burned, the stones stayed hot for a very long period of time, longer than they should have. The monks who lived at the priory started to be tormented by her ghost. They would see her specter go around, she would fly around the rafters, fly down at them, scare them, punch them, make all of their candles start flickering a sickly green color. She would touch their books and leave singe marks and burn marks. She would cackle at night and keep them awake. All kinds of things that just made it so that there were just a bunch of restless monks who just didn't know what to do anymore. So after long enough of the monks being basically tortured to where they can't live in this environment, they called a palmer to come out and exorcise the spirit. He came out and actually trapped the witch's spirit in a bottle, plugged her up, buried her underneath stones somewhere on the property of the priory, and said that the bottle should never be broken, because if it was, it would release her spirit and she would be vengeful and worse than she ever was before. Now, the supposed true story of why this story was written is it was a poem written around the time that this priory was in really bad disrepair and in need of being renovated. But there was a lot of controversy as to why it hadn't been renovated yet. So it was written to shame the rector of Dunstable, to make him want to do the renovations, and to give it a reason why it hadn't been done yet. So this poem was written and published. Basically, it was saying that since this bottle was buried somewhere on the grounds of the graveyard of the priory, nobody could do any renovations. They couldn't dig anywhere. They couldn't really trespass. They couldn't do anything, because if they messed with that bottle or broke it or unplugged it or did something to it, this witch would be released. So now Sally lives kind of in legend and lore, And there's a lot of people, especially like around that town, who still think that this could be a real thing. There are still reports more recently of people seeing a female ghost walking around the property of the Priory. So people think that maybe it's Sally, maybe she was real. There are also reports of seeing green flickering lights and hearing voices that have no origin. There's a lot of people who think it could be real. Then there's people who just think it was more of a political move to make a statement and make it kind of quirky so that people would read about it in paper. So I could see it both ways, but what's really cool is it kind of has bounced back and forth from public view over the years. More recently, it's come back into public view. I actually found out that a girl named Heather is doing an indie film about Sally. It's called Trapped Magic. It sounds really cool. I love indie film. You guys know that I like artsy film kind of things, and I want to do more things like that on this channel. I hope you guys are looking forward to that. But she is making a film, and she actually sent me a link to her trailer and a clip that they've shot. She's hoping to run it in the film festival circuit once it's ready, which would be amazing. So if you guys want to check that out, all of the information is down below. And please also tell me in the comments what you think. Do you think it could be real? Do you think it's fake? Do you think it's a blend of both? Would you really be that hurt if you found out that one of your like urban legends that you've always heard about was just made up? Because sometimes I think that belief can bring upon reality. I feel like if enough people believed in Sally and believed that she was real, then they might be actually seeing something that could be resembling Sally. And there's even controversy if that's the person that inspired this story's real name. She could be named something totally different. So it was just a really interesting story. I really liked it. I'm glad that I heard about it. I'm excited to see a movie being made about it. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.